Alysse Stepanian es una artista iraní que dejó su país desde 1979, desde que la revolución impusiera un régimen teocrático en ese país. Desde 2009 se ha dedicado a reunir el trabajo de 19 artistas, todas mujeres, originarias de Irán, que ha estado aquí en México en el Exteresa Arte actual durante las últimas semanas. El día de hoy estamos con ella para platicar acerca de su trabajo y también del trabajo de 19 artistas mujeres en Irán. Estamos en Luchadoras, comenzamos. Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidas y bienvenidos a Luchadoras. Estamos en Rompeviento Televisión por internet. Estamos muy contentos porque estamos también en nuestro nuevo set, cumpliendo ya después de un año de haber estado aquí en el programa, en Luchadoras. Yo soy Lulú Barrera y el día de hoy me encuentro con Alysse Stepanian. Bienvenida, welcome Alysse.
Thank you very much, happy to be here.
We are very happy as well to have you here. It's a great honor. It's a great honor to be able to connect the experiences of Mexico with Iran and your life experience as well.
Thank you.
Alysse, to begin with, in 1979, the revolution in Iran imposed a theocratic government, and many people, among them yourself, move away and live outside from Iran since then. How was that experience for you?
Well, it was a very complicated situation. Not only the government was completely different, but okay, let me start again. When revolution happened, Shah was overthrown. There was a certain kind of disillusionment with the political system, because growing up in Iran, we all believed Shah to be the sort of a father figure. So when that happened, it was a very strange and surreal feeling. And there was a certain kind of excitement in the air about the revolution. Many people from different walks of life had participated in it, including the students. I myself was very young. I was not involved in politics at all. The plan was that actually I was going to be leaving the country for the U.S. to study. So as it turned out, it happened after the revolution at the end of 1979. And then moving to the United States made things even more complicated, because there was a culture shock that accompanied all of this. People were very different. Women were treated very differently. It was the complete opposite of what was happening in Iran.
And also there was like a dominant discourse in Iran against the US. Was it? Or not against the US per se, but against Western civilization?
Well, that was mostly the point of the revolution. It was said that the Shah had westernized the country too much, and the revolution wanted to take the country back to the old values.
How this experience of being outside Iran and being outside, let's call it like that, shaped or influenced your work and your decision to be an artist?
Well, I had never imagined being an artist until after I had moved out of Iran. In fact, that happened maybe a year after. So I went to the United States as a student, on a student visa, and I had a difficult time figuring out what to study. Everything seemed too boxed, everything that I tried, until finally, just one night, out of the blue, it occurred to me that I was meant to be an artist.
And you began?
And that was it. It just changed my life.
What were the possibilities that art offered you against other possibilities?
It offered the possibilities of growth as a person, freedom of spirit, being able to lead my life in my own way, and to be able to connect to the world around me in a more meaningful way.
That's nice. And have you been back in Iran since then?
No, unfortunately I have not since I left.
And well, currently for us here in Mexico, it's really important to have the opportunity to talk to you directly, because many of the information and the news we have about Iran and Iraq and the Middle East in general is very influenced by the US media, and probably by the most a dominant discourse against Iran in general, because of all the political tensions between the US and Iran.
Yes.
But the fact is that, and you were telling this during your visit to Mexico, that there are high rates of literacy in Iran, that women are participating very actively in education, in higher education specifically.
Yes.
So, but at the same time, there are some questions about human rights.
Yes.
It's a complex scenario, don't you think?
Yes, it is very complicated. The thing is, I really see Iran as an outsider now, because I haven't been there in over 30 years. And in fact, my connections with, I reconnected with the Iranian community only like since 2009. So whatever opinion I might have about what's going on there, it's basically an opinion that is built by what others mostly hear. Yes, the education level for women is much higher now than it was during the Shah. At the same time, there are restrictions now that this is a recent thing that happened about women's educations, what they can study, which the details of which I don't know enough to be able to eloquently speak about.
But definitely being Iranian has shaped your identity, your life, and your art.
Yes, it definitely has, and not only being an Iranian, but moving to a new place. When I first moved to the United States, actually, I felt like an outsider again for years. I lived in LA, Los Angeles, for 18 years, and throughout that time I felt like an outsider. In fact, when I first started studying art, I studied painting. So I was a studio painter, and my paintings were mainly about identity and being an outsider. But after moving to New York City, things began to change. What's interesting is that New York City reminded me a lot of Tehran, this busy urban landscape. and the energy. And New York City, what was very different about it that I really appreciated was that you'd be walking on the street and you'd be hearing many different languages. People weren't so segregated. People of different races, they sat on the subway together. Yes. So you had no choice. You were always in contact. And then I began to notice that I didn't feel so much as an outsider, and there were a lot of cultural programs that actually involved Iranian filmmakers. So I kind of forgot your original question.
But how your Iranian origin has influenced you?
Shaped me.
Yeah.
Feeling as an outsider, you see things more objectively. You are better able to take a step back and be analytical about things that are happening around you, about the way people behave, the way people react to the media, or talk about what happens in the world around them. So that's how it really shaped me. And I am grateful for that. I am happy that I have this mix of cultural, social backgrounds in me. And also, I'm an Armenian, so as an Armenian growing up in Iran, that added another layer to my experiences, my personal experiences. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing this deep, intimate histories. We're going, ahora vamos a hacer un corte, el primer corte aquí en Luchadoras, y regresamos en un momento más con Alysse para seguir platicando ya en concreto de cómo su experiencia personal se relaciona con el arte que ha producido. Vamos a volver en Luchadoras en un momento más. Estamos con Alysse Stepanian. Estamos de regreso en Luchadoras, estamos platicando con Alysse Stepanian, artista iraní residente en Estados Unidos. Alysse, we were talking about your life and your life trajectory, and well, you have a piece of art. Well, I have to rewind. You told us you began in painting, and then you moved to performance and other type of arts. How that happened?
As I explained earlier, I lived in Los Angeles for 18 years. That's when I considered myself a painter's painter. Painting was my passion. I could just taste the paint, taste colors. But then I got to a point where I felt that I felt boxed. I felt that I needed to expand. I needed to put myself in an unfamiliar situation. Maybe by then I was addicted to change because of what happened, leaving Iran. It was a period where my paintings were actually getting a lot of attention. And when I started to change my work, people that were following my work actually were dismayed. Then my husband and I decided that it was time for us to leave Los Angeles, to throw ourselves into a completely unfamiliar place. And we just got rid of most of our stuff, packed the minimum belongings into a little truck, and we drove to New York City. I had never been to New York City in my life. So there we were in a complete, another culture shock. Yeah. It turned out to be a very pleasant experience. We had heard many stories about New York City, and it turned out that New Yorkers were much more human in a very positive way than we had expected. And so I had left my paintings behind, and I had to start over again. There was this issue of space. There was less space, physical space, living space, working space available in New York City. So I decided I want to try out video. Meanwhile, Philip Mantion, who is a composer, my husband, and I don't like to use the word husband, I can explain that later, but my partner, my life partner and collaborator and I decided to start a nonprofit multimedia arts organization, many musicians and artists in New York. That was the first year we were there, so we started that, and we put together 3 festivals, 5-day events, showing multimedia works by international artists, as well as New Yorkers. So that was a good way for me to return to performance. As an undergraduate, I had studied performance art with Los Angeles performance artist Rachel Rosenthal. Yes, I studied with her for a year, and I even performed with her once, twice, I'm not sure. That was in the 80s. So then in 1998, moving to New York City, I returned to performance art. So
it was a new experience again.
It was a new experience again.
You have one piece that is called What's My Name, Sister, which is video art, and it's intimately related to your personal experience living in Iran.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about the piece? What inspired the piece?
Sure. After moving to the U.S., I began keeping a dream journal. And then when I moved to New York City and got into video, I started pulling out my dream journals, writing them, recomposing them, and started to dream about making a film out of my dream journal. And a lot of them were related to the experience of living Iran and revolution and the identity crisis. These What Is My Name, Sister is composed of 7 scenes from 5 different dreams. Some are actually verbatim, just as it happened, the dreams. For example, the first scene I think we're going to watch, Rourier. I can talk about it more later if you'd like to watch it now.
We're going to watch it a little bit later, but you can describe the...
Okay. So the first scene, Rourier, a cleaning lady walks into the room of this young woman who happens to be me. And she is dressed in a soldier's outfit, and her broom has an end of a rifle. So she shoots into the rooftops without really aiming at anything, and then she jumps out of the bedroom of this girl that has its wall missing. She jumps into the revolution and disappears, and the young girl looks for her, concerned at first that maybe she was hurt, and pleased to see that she's okay. And then the scenes that follow show this same girl, Alysse in this video, the same girl going on a physical journey for a search for her identity. This is when she has left Iran, and at this desolate landscape, actually atop a hill, she meets her brother, whom she had not seen for years. And I don't know if I should say any more, but basically it's a search for her identity, and in a very very touching scene, when she continues her physical journey, she actually comes across her own self as a baby that is cradled into her mother's arms. The mother offers her this baby and says, "This is you when you were first born." And so she takes the baby and looks at her with pleasure, as if she is finding herself anew. Yes.
This is very surreal, and well, it comes from the world of dreams.
Yes.
And also thinking about Alysse, does it have any relation or correlate with Alice in Wonderland? Is it?
Oh, that's a good question. No, for some reason, I was referred to as Alice. Alysse translates to Alice.
Yeah.
But growing up as a teenager, I loved Alice in Wonderland, and people would call me Alice in Wonderland, so maybe that has something to do with it.
Something also mystical around it.
Yes.
There's a play of security and stability, instability, recognition and recognition in your work, in What's My Name, Sister. It's like a constant battle of the self, I don't know.
Yes, the title of What Is My Name, Sister was actually derived from something that my sister wrote for me in response to my, after she read the dream journal. Battle with the self, yes. That's interesting that you're seeing it that way, battle with the self. I guess it's the identity crisis. There's a scene where she's dancing in this white background, dressed all white, with her sister and 2 other girls, and then she realizes that the palm of her hand is bleeding, which she tries to hide, and yes, that could be interpreted as a battle with the self. That represents, to me, that was from my dream, represented something, an inner pain, inner anguish that need to be dealt with, something that I had to face. And then directly from that scene, she hears a voice in the background, and she finds this secret room where two soldiers one soldier faces a wall as if he's been there for eternity, and another one is buried under the wall. You cannot see his legs. And the one buried is suffering, and he pleads with his eyes to her to help him, but she's unable to help. This is, to me, that's Alysse facing her fears, the guilt of leaving a country that was in war, and leaving her brother behind, and the brother happens to be the first soldier. And then when she comes out, she realizes she cannot do anything, she cannot help. When she comes out of that, her palm, she finds that her palm is no longer bleeding.
It's intense, really intense. Yes. Well, we're going to see What's My Name, Sister. Okay. Vamos a ver ahora cuál es mi nombre, hermana, esta pieza de video arte de Alysse Stepanian, de la que acabamos de hablar.
Alysse, they're gods. چطورا گوشت بورنایگه؟ ببخشی که انگار ریکتا پاشه؟ رکلیه به دکترک سلام برسون.
Estamos de vuelta en Luchadoras, estamos platicando con Alysse Stepanian y acabamos de ver el primer segmento de su obra ¿Cuál es mi nombre, hermana? What is my name, sister? Alysse, well, we were talking about this piece and I was wondering at what extent your dreams were impregnated from real life and real experiences as well. We were talking a little bit offline of the recording about the revolution at that time. I don't know, well, how was the relation between your dreams then and your actual experiences?
Well, I think that my dreams were really a reflection of my real life experiences. That's the way I see dreams. They reflect your subconscious. So there was a direct correlation. Only in dreams things appear in exaggerated symbolic forms, like the cleaning lady becoming a soldier to me represented these social role reversals, this newfound strength for people that maybe felt powerless before that.
Before the revolution?
Because of the revolution, like I said earlier, there was this excitement in the air. Everybody thought that everyone was looking for positive change. So there was an excitement and many people were very happy from different walks of life. In the other scenes, again, my real life experience of leaving Iran, after having been through the revolution, leaving Iran, and trying to figure out where I stand in the world. And when you leave a country, as the geographic space increases, something happens to your memory automatically. For example, I started forgetting street names. And then after a while, my dreams became in English. So yes, they were direct reflection of the identity crisis that I was going through. And being an artist, actually, it helped me figure things out in a positive way, to tap into my creative energies and try to do something positive with them.
You're also having very interested in politics, or not politics just like that, but also the way power relations are shaped in the world in different aspects. Part of your creation have been related to that in some sense?
I'm sorry?
Part of your creation has been related to that interest?
Oh yes, many of my works have been that about power relations, especially some multimedia installations that I have made with my partner in life, Philip Manchion. For example, I think we're going to look at Don't Be Afraid, Be Ready, and there were a few others, similar themes. For example, let's see, All Things Orange, and there was, I think those two related mostly, but there were other things like Drainage, that was about human desire and how that shapes us as human beings.
So talking about Don't Be Afraid, Be Ready, this is a piece that really interests me because it recalls a very significant moment in the history, in the recent history, which is 9/11.
Yes.
We are going to watch now a bit of the video that documented this installation, and we return to talk about this. Vamos a ver ahora un fragmento de la instalación que Alysse hizo con Philip, su compañero de vida. Se llama Don't Be Afraid, Be Ready. No tengas miedo, mejor está listo o ponte listo. Y vamos a verlo y regresamos con ella para platicar más de esta obra.
注意！ 恐怖主义迫使我们做出选择，准备好，不要怕。注意！注意！ 注意！恐怖分子正在致力于获得生化武器、化学武器、核武器和放射性武器， 所以恐怖袭击的威胁无处不在，没有办法预测将会发生什么。
Acabamos de ver Don't Be Afraid, Be Ready, una pieza de Alysse con Philippe. Y Alysse, can you tell us about what was the motivation of creating this piece and the relation it had with 9/11 and yeah.
Let's see. This piece was created in 2006, I think. Yes, in Beijing, China. Philip and I were doing a residency there for 3 months, and this was 9/11 was still fresh in our minds. What happened in New York City, and we lived there at that time. The experience of being there when it happened was again very surreal. There was a certain calmness and sadness in the air, and at the same time that most people were humming the drums of war in the country, New Yorkers seemed to have become more kind and gentler towards one another. So yes, this work was about the politics of fear in America, and it's not just America. It's a global thing.
Yeah.
And again, it relates to this hierarchical, socially constructed hierarchies for keeping those in power where they are. And the symbol for this politics of fear seemed to become the color-coded alarm system. The highest alarm was the color red, so that if there was suspicion of terrorism, the high alert, they would say, today is color red alert system, be careful. And then orange was next. They would say that they would announce it in the media, yes. There was a lot of fear amongst people to the point that people were basically watching each other. So I don't remember who said this, but in this kind of society, it's like you don't need to be policing it. People watch each other like a shepherd watches the herd, basically. Yes, we decided to make a piece using the color-coded system, and actually we had created another piece, All Things Orange, before that, which was about the color-coded thing, and we had used the color orange only. And we had been using water in our installations a lot too, water representing first of all the flow of the subconscious, and then secondly the idea that what is given you circulates into your subconscious from your daily life experiences, like from the media, for example, and then it keeps on circulating. It does not regenerate itself, and nothing new comes out. It's the same thing being fed and coming back out.
Like a death circle.
Like a what?
Death circle? Negative experience?
Oh, yes. Not a positive thing, because it's like regurgitating what's been giving you mindlessly.
And that relates with fear strongly.
That relates to fear, yes. And the fact that it gets, it attacks your subconscious is a scary thing, because the subconscious is your deeper inner self. That's where your dreams are, and your dreams are supposed to be free. And once your dreams are overtaken by these fears, then you have nothing left.
You're a prisoner of fear.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we're gonna make a little stop, and we'll begin with the last part of the program.
Okay.
we expect you to talk about Nietzsche Was a Man,
Sure.
the exhibition you were curating and organizing and was here in Mexico. Estamos ya en la recta final de Luchadoras, vamos a hacer una pequeña pausa y volvemos para platicar de Nietzsche Was a Man, una exhibición organizada y curada por Alysse y que estuvo aquí en México en Exterés Arte Actual. Volvemos. Estamos de vuelta en Luchadoras y queremos tratar de abarcar lo más posible acerca de esta gran exhibición que ha estado en el Exterés Arte Actual durante unos meses aquí en México. También quisiera agradecer a Maribel Escobar por haber hecho posible esta entrevista con Alysse y por haber hecho posible también que esta exhibición existiera y tuviéramos la oportunidad de ver estas grandes piezas aquí en México. Alysse, talking about Nietzsche Was a Man, you did a great job since 2009 recollecting works of art made by women from Iran. How that happened and what was your experience?
It started in 2009 and continued on all the way to 2013. The way it happened is first I met Neda Darzi, who is the co-curator of the show, and she runs Persbook Arts that is based in Tehran. I met her, of all places, on Facebook. So social media brought us together and reconnected me with my past. Up until then, I was completely out of touch with the Iranian community. Through Neda, I met others, and one person to another. And I was always curious to learn about what they did, their work. So through my curiosity and interest, I learned about their videos. And in 2009, I also started a video art screening program when I lived in Santa Fe, New Mexico, USA, called Manipulated Image. And I invited Neda to co-curate this show called Nietzsche Was a Man with me, and it was supposed to be screened the following summer of 2009. But that didn't happen because I moved out of Santa Fe. My life changed drastically again, and I'm glad that it didn't happen then, because it was just going to be a one-night screening, and the ideas really were not ripe. When they first started, it was not so inclusive. It was more very narrow focused. So over the 4 years, it grew. And did I answer your question?
Yeah. How you felt after being able to capture or to have all together this marvelous art from 19 different women producing. I see the art and it's really very intense, very symbolic, very passionate. I mean,
well, first I want to thank Exterés Arte Actual for providing the first venue for exhibiting this curation, the very first place. Maribel Escobar Varillas worked very closely with me, with us, to put this show together. Her generosity will always be appreciated. And I want to thank also Omar Inti Ajora Arce, who designed this catalog. It's online, it's a colored catalog, and there are some printed catalogs too. And I want to thank the current director, Juan Carlos Horena Ross of Exteresa. I also would like to thank IMBA. So yes, them providing this venue to see this show come into realization, it was a thrilling experience. It was not easy to gather all the works, especially women from Iran had many difficulties sending them. And I am sad to say that a few of these women had to withdraw from the show because there was no way for them to send me their movie files.
Because of?
Because the internet connection is very volatile, in addition to being very slow. And mailing does not seem to be an option. So, you know, after a few tries, and then the video is very specific. There are many different systems, and so anyway, make a long story short, they had to withdraw.
But there are 19 pieces.
Actually 20 pieces, 2 by Farideh Shahsavarani, yes.
And this work, when I say it, it has like a cross-cutting theme that may be too narrow, for if I say it like that, because you have because you amplify it, and I will explain myself. Okay. For me, gender is a cross-cutting theme within the show. All of the pieces, in a way, think about women, women's roles, women's experiences abroad, also in immigration, and well, all of them for me are pieces of contestation. Or, but you were talking about, and in the curatorial work, you can see that you amplify that by saying that all social hierarchies that are culturally established are interconnected.
Yes.
Racism is interconnected with sexism and speciesism. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yes. Socially constructed power hierarchies, patriarchal, anthropocentric power hierarchies. Imagine a pyramid. Those in power on top are fewer of them, and usually they are male, and depending on where, if it's in the Western European world, white male, and I should add heterosexual white male, and I also add economically advantaged males, and as you go toward the bottom of the pyramid, the number of people increases, and they become less and less powerful, more and more powerless, and voiceless. So you go to the different races, minorities, economically disadvantaged, non-heterosexuals, and you get to then women mixed in together, and then women of different color. You keep going down and down, and then at the very bottom, I include non-human animals, and I'm saying non-human animals because I consider humans to be animals as well. We have managed to place us somehow in the moral center of the moral center of the universe and the crown of evolution, yes. And we are not, and that's what Nietzsche said, that we are the same as all other creatures, and they all have their own rights. And so I'm not sure that I answered your question.
Yeah, that's the axis of the show, indeed. Well, I shocked that we have reached the end of the program already, but but I'm gonna promote the catalog. Ustedes pueden entrar a nuestro sitio de internet, a nuestro sitio de Facebook, donde les vamos a poner información sobre el catálogo de la exhibición, para que puedan conocer más acerca de las piezas. También muchas de estas artistas tienen espacios en internet. Samir Eskandarfar tiene un espacio en Vimeo bastante nutrido donde pueden ver su producción. Síganos en Facebook, ahí vamos a poner información acerca de las artistas que integran la muestra para que puedan saber muchísimo más de esta exhibición tan maravillosa que por primera vez fue exhibida aquí en México. I was telling them I was going to share the websites of the artists of the show so they can get deep into this. Do you feel comfortable if we do a little wordplay?
Oh, sure. Let's do it.
Alysse, what do you think when I say art?
Green.
Performance?
Art.
Gender?
Male.
Anthropocentrism?
Humans.
Violence?
Sexual.
Women?
Art.
Men?
Friends.
Empire?
Land.
United States?
America.
Iran?
Freedom.
Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, to talk about your work, to bring close to Mexico, Iran, and your life experience, the experience of migration, of making questions, of trying to solve them through art. It's been inspiring to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
What's the thing you most enjoy of being an artist and do what you do?
The most, what I enjoy about being an artist is that I can lead my life my own way, basically, and I see art as a way of life, so just being and existing itself is art to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias también a ustedes por haber estado en Luchadores el día de hoy. Gracias a Teresa por haber hecho esto posible. Gracias a Alysse.
Gracias.
Síganos en Facebook, vamos a compartir más información, el sitio de Alysse para que la sigan, le sigan la pista y el trabajo maravilloso que hace. Esto fue Luchadoras, estuvimos con Alysse Stepanian, artista iraní residente en los Estados Unidos. Quédense porque comienzan las retransmisiones. Esto fue Luchadoras y nos vemos el próximo miércoles.